Sports, when you've got a great ball club. Sports, when you're leaving it all on the field. Sports, when you like your team's chances. Sports, to survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. Oh, it's Sports Channel 8. Yeah. Sports Channel 8. Hey! Hey! Hey!
It is Sports Channel 8 streaming. Welcome in. It's still Duke UNC week. We're barely halfway there. Are we even halfway there? I guess we found out Sunday night. We're just at the halfway point.
Yeah.
Are you exhausted yet? Brian Geisinger, ACCSports.com, the ACC Sports Journal, and the BuzzBeat podcast. What's going on, my friend?
Not much. Yeah, excited to be at the halfway point with you here. The middle of Duke UNC week. We're declaring it right now. This is the exact middle.
We're calling it the middle, yeah. the Kansas of the journey from Duke to UNC. Exactly. All kinds of for some reason, I don't know. Maybe because of the build up to, oh my gosh, what if we ever got it? Seemed so monumental that and I'm sure the game will be huge, but I don't know. The when people started talking in the latter stages of the weekend about how the world will cease to exist, and like as if all business in North Carolina will stop for 5 days, is still a little like
it's like the fictional town in Friday Night Lights. Like every business in the Triangle is closing, so we can all be in front of our televisions at 8:49 Saturday night or whatever. Yeah, no. Like look, yesterday on Tuesday, I went to like the final press conference for Hubert Davis at the Dean Dome, and then I took a little joyride up the 15501 and landed at the Bill Brill press room at Duke to hear Coach K's final press availability, which was like a cool, like, I'm glad I did that. That was like a cool little fun, I enjoy living in this corner of the universe experience. But both coaches sort of said the same thing too. And look, like maybe it's what they have to say, and they want certain quotes out in the media, but they are just saying like, yeah, this is a game, I mean, it's a basketball game. And that's even them trying to sort of like contextualize Duke UNC, but also the Final Four. And I do kind of wonder too if like Duke UNC, like obviously it's got a lot of like added like zest and spice because of the stakes. But it'll be like, I don't know, it's even like a little different that it's going to be taking place like not at the Dean Dome, not at Cameron, and Brooklyn or Greensboro, just like one of these just like sort of like more recognizable ACC facilities.
No, that's
true. It's taking place at a football stadium in New Orleans,
Yeah.
like,
it's a little stripped down. There's been, I mean, everything that we talk about Duke UNC really has nothing to do with this group of players. You know what I mean? But the things that does have to do with is the two games that they've played against each other. Like that's the two. Yeah. And then we've seen a little bit of social media. Sometimes it's in the comments, sometimes some subtweeting. Yeah. I don't monitor that stuff. I assume that people are monitoring it closely, and we would know if anybody had commented on anybody, or if anybody had subtweeted or passively referred to somebody else. I assume both teams have gotten and heeded a lockdown warning on any social media. Don't you think?
I think that started like as soon as Duke beat Arkansas. As you can see, Tracy Wolfson tried to get Paolo Banchero to be like, yeah, we want UNC. Yeah. And in Banchero's lineup, you're not going to get me this time, which was great. I think the only thing I saw along those lines yesterday, I did not, once Kate was done, I did not go back to UNC because Baycott and Leaky Black, and I think one other, maybe RJ Davis, were meeting with Brady Manick were meeting with the media too. And it, like, even that was funny, again, in his own little corner of the universe. Like literally UNC Sports Information and Duke Sports Information had to work together to be like, look, we know some people are going to want to be at both these things at the same time. We're going to want to be on Zoom calls at the same time. So it was funny to do sort of like some people, I'm sure after K was done, went back to UNC to then talk to the players. But Baycott said something like, he and Mark Williams know one another. They're both from the state of Virginia. And but it was like good natured, you know what I mean? It was sort of like, oh, they're having like funny banter,
Even the Banchero, even when he said I want UNC at the ACC tournament, I don't think that was as much a compliment as a dig. Definitely. But the stuff we've seen on social media with Caleb Love, Theo John, maybe one or two other, I can't remember who else is involved. And then there's always like, who's liking comments or whatever. But like, I think that is, we would know if something pops and we will know. And so I assume that either because they're told to or because they are smart enough to know it's the right thing to do.
Are you ready to rehash Handshake Gate this week as well?
I was wondering about that. It sounded like we got an official that beef had been quashed.
Yeah, that was a nothing burger, man. Like, I know. I mean, like, I know emotions were high after that game. I think that sort of like made it seem like a bigger deal than it actually was. But yeah, it's very clearly that got squashed quickly, and I don't think is a big deal to anyone. I mean, like, I'm sure to the fans it matters quite a bit, but as far as like the coaches, I don't think that will have anything to do with. It would be funny if Chris Carroll after this game did not shake Hubert Davis's hand again, though.
Well, and in this situation, don't you think there's so much time, and you're on that like elevated court where like there'll be enough time for everybody to probably see each other before the game, and it'll be good natured then too. You know what I mean? Like you don't expect anything.
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's a very big deal. Now, I do think though, like there's something to be said about both these programs have like some level of respect, and perhaps like a very high level of respect for one another. There's something to be said about how they want to focus in on just like the game and competing for a championship. And that's something that like Kay is really hammering home, and so is Hubert. But there's got to be something like, but that's just what like that's what's public facing. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I'm sure below the surface there is also some level. Like, how could there not be of like, look, we have stuff. We're competing for more stuff. They want to take our stuff.
Yeah.
And they're the rival. So I get why you would want to sort of like manage it in the public sphere, but because then that allows you to sort of like control it behind the scenes as like a motivational tool, I guess.
Yeah, Kay obviously had was a better a more advanced coach than Roy was, certainly at the start of that rivalry, but even when they finished. But they were closer enough, both partly in age, that it was never really worth them to go after each other for their platforms the way that Kay even talks about Young. Like, we were trying to get what Dean had and take it or whatever. And then he understood it, when he became Dean. There was never really that with Roy. It'll be interesting to see how it does play out with Hubert and Shire over the next.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, like, I think it could look very similar to the dynamic that we saw in generations past, which is, and this is like, I'm painting with a really broad brush here, and I wouldn't want to limit Duke's local or regional exposure, nor would I want to downplay the global reach of UNC, which is massive simply by virtue of Michael Jordan, but also just being like a very, very good team. But my guess is it's like UNC will continue to dominate as like the local sort of like object of infatuation among fans, media. How could they not, to an extent, right? Yeah. It's like the flagship sports program in the state. Lots of alums, lots of fans that then go into jobs in the media. And Duke will have the more, probably a slightly larger like national global reach. And so that, I guess to an extent it works, because it's like they both get to like play in their own spaces, what I mean? But where it does come to a head is recruiting, obviously, like that. That's where it like those two forces really butt up against one another, I think.
And Swain has talked about the flipping the big brother, little brother, like who's the more dominant, and I'm fine with that, and that is correct, right? But to me, ultimately, for both, that dynamic is fine to keep, but both do have a measure of expectation of success, right? Like if Shire keeps the national brand and dudes are going number one in the draft and they're big, but he goes 10 years without winning a title, and like there's only one Final Four in there, that's big trouble. Hubert Davis, same thing. If it's fine to be plucky and competitive and cool and beat Duke 1 out of 2 times a year and win an ACC title, you go 5 years without making a Final Four and 10 years without a title, and I still think that's going to matter. So
it does. Yeah, it will. It'll be interesting to see like Hubert, like now that he's raised the expectations, so they were already high. Yeah. Then, like, I think maybe we'll see this to a smaller extent with Wake and Steve Forbes next season. It's like they jumped the expectations so much in year 2 for Steve Forbes. And, like, Valanis Williams and Jake LaRavia both go pro. And if Wake doesn't hit, like, 2 home runs in the transfer portal, they're probably going to take a bit of a step back. And then, like, what happens because of that? So I don't know. Like, these are like, as far as UNC and Duke go, these are, like, incredibly fortunate first world problems to have, but the stakes are win 80% of your games, beat the rival, and make the tournament every year, and compete for a national title every 3 years, and put guys in the pros. And it's like it's not easy to do all of those things at the same time.
In just a couple minutes, and I see our guest there. I'm gonna ask him to wait patiently for one more minute before we start the game show at 10:15, because I know folks are going to want to jump in and see him. We might ask him about playing in the rivalry. The Weather Moose has now joined us. Moose, did you shave? That looks like a pretty trimmed beard there, my friend.
Perm, when you get those beard trimmers and you use the wrong guard, things can happen.
Interesting.
It's a little.
I appreciate the transparency and the honesty. That I did not mean to cut it like this. Well done.
Yeah.
You hit it with a 4, but you meant it to be a 6.
There's a TikTok video of a kid sitting in a barber's chair where the guy's got the clippers and he goes one pass, and then you see the guard fall off on the chair, and it's just skint down. That's kind of, as soon as I made that first pass here, I was like, oh shit.
All right. Before we start the game show, I do want to touch on the other quick news about the NC State Wolfpack. One, I know the players, it's not going to make them feel better to lose a double overtime game to UConn, to say that they got screwed. They freaking got screwed. And I guess the only justice is that a lot of people saw it. A lot of people pointed it out. A lot of people that were jumping in and watching that don't follow women's basketball are like, why is this happening? Why is this number 2 seed getting a home game? And so in theory, that might shame the committee into doing it differently in the future.
It's not. These are largely shameless, like the upper crust of college athletics. These are, I'm guessing, mostly shameless people, but also, like, it's not going to mean anything. Like, they're going to continue to have regional finals in close to Connecticut, right? Like that ain't changing anytime soon.
But hats off to the Wolfpack women winning, was it 3 in a row ACC titles?
Yeah.
And then getting past the Sweet 16 barrier, and then just running into a crappy situation and even dealing with that very well by pulling the game out many times that it looked like it was over. So
do want to mention 2 million people watched that game.
Yeah, I saw that.
Most watched NCAA women's basketball game of 2022, best audience for an Elite 8 women's game since 2006, so 16 years.
It's a great game.
Incredible numbers, and it speaks to like if the media companies around these properties, or really anyone, is willing to invest in it, people will show up and care. So,
but when people talk about the spectrum, I remember this one time, and I won't even say the journalist who said it because now I'm embarrassed to say I agree with this person, but they said it one time of like, it's not that all sports, that some, like, wrestling is totally rigged, right? And it's not that some sports are either rigged or not rigged. There's kind of a spectrum. Like, we allow entertainment to matter, and it's not all fair play. You should just remember that in all sports. And that's one of those situations where they made a entertainment over what the pure of sport would have been. And that's what you get sometimes in all sports. And just remember that as a sports fan. It doesn't mean you can't be mad. It doesn't mean you can't complain and try and get it changed. But just remember, like, that's the reality of sports. As long as we want to watch them on television, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm throwing my entire fandom behind Don Staley in South Carolina for the rest of the season.
Let's go, Cox. And then the NC State basketball team now rests on the hopes of the transfer portal. Is there any other way to put it? I mean, everyone is gone.
That's been true I think that's been self-evident for weeks now.
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of like of the three guys that should have been highlighted, which were Manny Bates, Darion Sebron, and Jaquavion Smith. My thought was if you could get two of those guys to come back, which was unlikely, you still had to clean up in the transfer portal. Like, you still had to add pieces. And then it was like, if two of those guys don't come back, which I at least two of those guys don't come back, which I assumed was the most likely scenario, then it's like, yeah, you sound the alarms. And then if all three don't come back for whatever reason, I don't know what you're supposed to do, but it would not surprise me. That's kind of what I assumed was going to happen, honestly, for weeks now.
And really, this has been the case for Kevin Keats since he's been at State, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he's not been able to have a roster that he's continually moved forward, and you're not going to do that in this day and age of the transfer portal anyway. But it seems like every year he was losing a significant piece to either the portal or leaving early or none and dunning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's shown throughout his whole tenure at State he can't manage a roster. And
which is
now it's magnified.
Yeah, which is literally the most important part of, like,
it's his job. That's it.
Yeah.
My one advice for the transfer portal: check Oklahoma. They got good dudes there that can probably help your team. All right, without further ado, he's been waiting patiently. Let's bring him in and let's start the game show. He's wearing something mild right now, but we want to see what he's going to be wearing on Saturday night. It's time for Sports Cheerleading, the game show, with special guest Kenny Dennard. Kenny Dennard got moves. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, I'm 63. I'm just happy I woke up.
Man, you're young at heart, dude. You keep at almost every game. This is not a lie. A big Duke game, I get who is that dude in the fill in the blank here? The blue hat, the camo, the neon camo or whatever, and you just always look like you're having a good time. So I hope you keep waking up for another 100 years of
well,
Duke.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you. Well, the thing is, I've had this love for Duke basketball back to 1977 when I matriculated. For those of you at Carolina, you can look that up. So the beauty of Duke basketball, and who knew Coach K would take it where it's become. It's been a fantastic ride for everyone. We've all benefited in our personal lives, in our social lives, in our business lives. It's just been a glory. And I've been kind of a superstitious dude. When I played, I put on my shoes a certain way. I chewed the same gum every game, and it works. It's not crazy if it works. Isn't that the way the commercial goes?
Yep.
So I started wearing talismans, or whatever you want to call them, back, whatever lucky charms you want to call them. And a buddy of mine gave me a big blue derby back in 2013 that I started wearing. I went 22-0 when I went to a game wearing the derby. So I said, shit, this works.
Yeah.
Then I lost a game and it went on the shelf, and I had the guy who made them. These are like $800 derbies. They're like really nice. So I had the guy in Austin make me another one that looked a little different. I went 17-0 with every game I went back to. So I don't go back to every game. So that's over several years.
Sure.
And then the Big Blue 2 lost in the Michigan State game. So back at the Zion's Elite 8 game, which was very disappointing.
Yeah.
RJ, you just could have hit those foul shots. Okay. I'm sorry. But so then I had to come up with something else. And so my wife bought me this neon camo outfit for her birthday because she wanted to see me and it could have made her laugh and smile. So when I was ever out and about and I mean, so I started wearing it whenever I was going. We went to the U.S. Open. We're on the Jumbotron and the neon camo, and me and her were sitting there right in the front row watching Naomi and Coco play. Got a lot of TV time on that. Every time I wear it, I get screenshots and stuff. So the neon camo since 2019 was rocking it. And I actually have 2 sets, just to let you know that I can wash them.
Interesting.
So this is the Michael Kors Neo Camo from DXL, limited edition. Big and fat. They make you look good.
Is it undefeated?
It was until the Virginia game this year. I took George Karl. George Karl, my old coach.
Right.
George is my buddy from 40 years ago when I played in the CBA for a couple of months, and he was coaching, and he was Carolina guy. I'm a Duke guy, and he hated Duke. And I told George, I have more Carolina friends than he has Duke friends. He goes, "You're right, because you're my only Duke friend." I went to the Carolina game with him and sat in the Royal box, like in Wimbledon, over in the corner in Dean Smith Center. Roy and his wife and all the Illuminati of Carolina sit there. So I was with Roy and his wife, and Phil Ford was sitting behind me. I was on the front row of that section with George and a bunch of other guys, former players. And I'd like to say I'm well loved by all except Maryland fans. Okay, sorry, Maryland fans.
That's fine.
Yeah, but anyway, I rocked the neon camo. So that
all right, hold on.
Then I lost in Virginia. Then I lost at the Carolina game at the end of the season. So I had to go. It's in the closet. It's in the closet.
But hold on. So that's my question. Is that lost on you? If you were changing out clothes when they lost, you wore the neon camo after it lost, dude.
No, that's mental masturbation. Okay, I wore. See, I have one that's 4XLT. And then I have one that's 3XLT. So I wore the 3XLT. I lost at Virginia. So I tried the 4XLT. I had to give it another chance, but it wasn't the same jacket. It wasn't the same hoodie.
All right.
So, I mean, you got to, and believe me, it's nothing that I do has anything to do with how these kids play. But it's all in my mind and for my own mental masturbation. That's right.
And then, all right. So then you said now after the last game in Cameron, it's in the closet. What's the outfit for Saturday night?
Well, I mixed it. I was out in San Francisco and I mixed it up a little bit. I went really kind of blended in the background, had great seats, like 4 rows behind the bench. Then we won the game against Texas Tech, which was fantastic. Sure. So then the next game I'm Robert Graham is another DXL. Does anybody out there know what DXL is? It's the Rochester Big and Tall and Casual Male merger.
I picked it up contextually, but yes,
I'm not getting paid by them. But if I was a player now, I'd be a NIL for DXL. They have great Robert Graham stuff. Robert Graham makes very unique, limited edition stuff like Michael Kors does for big and fat guys to kind of make them look good. So I have 40 or 50 Robert Graham shirts. So I pulled one out, and it's my wife's favorite. She bought me for Christmas one year. It's Picasso. So it's really a vibrant prints and whatever. And it was a little nippy out in San Francisco. I used to live there, so I put on a yellow beanie kind of thing. So it was a beacon of light. I got a lot of screenshots from that too. But I don't know exactly yet what I'm going to be wearing in New Orleans. I just haven't decided.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know where my seats will be. But the one thing I will be excited about is getting a chance to watch these kids play against Carolina after what happened at Coach K's final home game. His senior night was disappointing. You heard everybody's heard his speech afterwards. All the guys that were there, there was like 90 of us, and we had the greatest time except for those last 6 minutes of the game. And then we got over it. Then it was over. I know for the players and the coaches it wasn't, but we've got lives. We move on. We enjoyed being there and seeing each other. Talk about hey, you kids, how's your wife? How's your third wife? All that good stuff. So when you go through the wars, and it means everything to those kids, of course.
Yeah.
But watching them progress, the beauty of college basketball is there's really 3 different seasons for like a team like Duke or Carolina or Kentucky. There's that first season is the TV, hype season where they have the made for TV games in November. Then you get into up to the kind of the exam break. Then you have the second season, which is really kind of after Christmas to the full regular season. Yep. And then you have the conference. Then you have the conference tournaments. And then you have the NCAA tournament. So inside that, every year I tell people, just relax. It's still early. Don't worry, whatever's going on. But when COVID hit this team, that's what really scared me because it really screwed up in everybody's year last year, but Duke a lot because they didn't even finish out the season. When COVID hit and they all went down, they didn't get on the court for 10 days or something like that. I'm not sure if y'all read about that.
Yeah.
And so when they came back, they were out of shape. So they've been working I've really admired how the coaching staff, they've been impervious. They don't listen to us or fans or media or whatever. They've got them to where, okay, here's our goals, what we're going to do to get back in shape to where we can be ready for the tournament. And it's pretty much played out just like that. It's been a great time watching this coaching staff because coach is really coaching. Yeah, it's really been a great coaching season, and of course John and Nolan are doing, and of course Chris are doing great jobs too.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out the last game they played right before the shutdown. It was Virginia Tech, the future champions of the ACC, and Duke was awesome down the stretch in the second half of that game. And then hit the pause, and then it's like they had to reboot the entire season. And as they're heading into this, this is the third phase of the year. It is incredible to see guys just taking leaps, like what Jeremy Roach has done he's been solid all season, but what he's done the last couple of games. Banchero has obviously been a force since he stepped on the floor. But I even feel like Paolo's made a jump, and what he and AJ are doing together, those two guys, has been special. And it's a fun mix to watch play together and see how they've look back and see how they've grown and progressed together. The season's flown by, but it's been kind of long now at this point. So
it has been. But if you think about, it's a great ensemble. Mm-hmm. I'm not critical of any of the kids because they're 19-year-olds or 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds. But, Mark Williams is the unsung X factor on this team. He looked like Jabbar the other night in San Francisco. He adds such a dimension that we haven't had at Duke. Coach has never been a big man type guy to where, Leitner was a tall guy, but he was really not a center. Mm-hmm. But we have a real center. And the guy's mobile, and he's got reach, and he's just so disruptive. Without him, we're not here, okay? Without Keels, we're not here. So each one of them, and then Banchero, God bless him, he's got the big name and the big rep. But, he's now finally getting in shape. He wasn't in shape really at the first of the season, in my opinion. I don't have inside baseball commentary. Right. I'm just saying, when you have all that cramping and stuff, something's going on, right?
Yeah.
And so he's now, I think, in much better physical condition. I hope Keels' calf, I hope this week it gets stronger because you can still tell some of his shots are flat. So that calf is still, he doesn't have the lift that he had back when he was spanked tie. So,
it's a great point about Banchero because some of those big games early in the season, Gonzaga, Kentucky cramped up, and now he's playing 37 minutes. He touches the ball every possession. It's
I think it's very important.
He's clearly come around, but I think even Kate spoke about this again yesterday. Even Mark, physically, he's so much quicker laterally now than he was when he got to Duke. And so you have this guy who has a 7'7" standing reach, is quick off the ground, and can move laterally. It's he's a really special, just a force at the rim at both sides of the hoop.
So I'm hoping they have one of those games against Carolina that they all play as best they can. Obviously, every team wants that, but I'm saying they haven't had a game. I think the Syracuse game, they had their best defensive game, maybe as far as 40 minutes. So they haven't put 40 minutes together yet. Okay. And some of it was conditioning, some of it was youth. Now, this is the time. If this happens, this is going to be a beautiful tournament for Duke fans and all the people that hate Duke, because then they can hate us more.
I want to ask you, obviously, I've heard you tell stories about, you were obviously one of those bridges from Duke before Mike Krzyzewski, and then finished your career with Mike Krzyzewski. And you went to a Final Four, for people who think that it only started with Coach K. Obviously, he raised the level of Duke basketball, but Kenny Dennard went to the Final Four before Coach K was there. In today's world, I know you're a social media guy somewhat. You're on there. You share your thoughts. You share love. In today's world of social media, do you think that Coach K would have gotten as long a leash as he did early on there?
Well, that's a good question. We'll never know that answer. I mean, those are those hypothetical ones that people say, boy, how would you have played and how would you have made it in this world with your craziness and the wild, because we had pretty wild crew back in the day,
right?
Before cable. I tell people who played before cable, forget social media.
Yep.
No, I don't think that's answerable. I just know that what transpired with our program, Coach Foster and Bubas, to the coaches between Bubas and Bill Foster, and then what Bill Foster spent 3 years building, right? Coach K had to spend, Dean Smith, when he took the job at Carolina, he had 3 years of building. They hung him. If you watch the ACC tournament show, Billy Cunningham's on there talking about, he's on the bus and he looks over and they're burning Coach Smith in effigy. Who would have ever, so the history lessons here are everything changes in time, and who knows what, but there's still some good athletic directors out there. Tom Butters, God bless him, rest in peace. He did it for not just giving Coach K confidence. He did it because he knew he hired him, and if he didn't get him going, they'd come for him because he hired him. So, all the dynamics that are out there, you just never know. But I don't think social media fantasies about the past are really relevant, and they're kind of my favorite word today is mental masturbation.
Yeah. All right. Last question before we start the game show. Because you played in the Final Four and we got the Final Four coming up. In big events in my life that you're like, oh, I'll never forget that. I truly don't forget that the event happened and have memories that are almost like pictures of them. But there's rare events. I've never had a child born. I can remember most of my wedding, but that was only 2 years ago. But there's rarely can I remember, really everything of what happened. I find like I can remember an event, but it's like 4 or 5 different moments that I remember from that event. When you think back to playing in the Final Four, like, can you picture every play, or is it just sort of like, remember the moments?
I've watched the tape. We had videotape back then, and the fonts on that were pretty cool, where they were like courier text,
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were coming back, Kentucky was up. They took within the national championship game. So Kentucky's got Goose Givens. He's got 41 points and everybody's going crazy, and they take their starters out and we make a run and they have to put their starters back in. And I've got 4 fouls. I take it to the hole. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm 10.7 boards, only because I know that afterwards. I didn't know that when I was taking it to the hole. And I'd stop, pivot, and do a fadeaway shot. Make it. Hear the whistle. I'm going to put it to like 2 points with 40 seconds left or something. They called me for a charge on a fadeaway. So that's what I remember is, I could have, my life, it's like that Mr. 3000 or whatever, you hit the home run or don't hit the home run.
Yeah.
If that could have been the spark and we won the national championship, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. I'd probably be like Rick Fox in Hollywood, being a freaking star. No, I'm just kidding. Excellent. But still, that's what I remember from that championship game. But there's so many, like the backwards dunk against Villanova in the regional championship game, first one ever on national television. That was a big memory.
Very cool. Well, I feel like that's something a competitor would remember. Like in a game that they lost, they would remember the moment they thought that, like right up to the moment, I still believed, and then that was sort of the end of it. So,
well, it was the fucking ref. Sorry,
that's fair.
When they went to 3 refs, I'm sorry to keep going. When they went to 3 refs, see, we only had 2 refs when I was playing.
Interesting.
And when somebody said to me, a reporter asked me about later after, said, what would you have done with 3 refs? Because I've had the most fouls in Duke career and most disqualifications, all that. But I did play 30 minutes a game, so I was a manageable hack. So I said, if we had 3 refs, it'd just be one more to hate. That's all.
Maybe they would have gotten the call right, Kenny. All right, here's how we play the game show. There will be 3 categories. Mine is King Trivia because you're from King, North Carolina, but that doesn't mean it's going to be about King, North Carolina. Duke UNC Trivia from Josh Goodson, who has joined us now and is still just racking up mortgages. I can hear the beeps on his computer. 1978 Final Four Trivia. That as long as he didn't ask you who called the charge, and then it'll be two questions from each of us for a total of 6 questions, right? On 2 of the questions you can trust the Moose, which means you just ask the Moose what he thinks and then you either agree or disagree. So you got a 50-50 shot, right?
He's my lifeline.
He's your lifeline. Yes. But and if we're pretty bad about giving hints, and we want people to win. So for each answer you get right, that will be a token you'll take to the next round. I'll tell you what you get to do with those tokens in round 2. Where do you want to start?
I've been a token before, so I know what you're talking about.
Where do you want to start? King Trivia, Duke UNC Geography, or 1978 Final Four?
King Trivia.
All right, you are from King, North Carolina. Although I wanted to point out you're not a notable person on the King, North Carolina Wikipedia page, and I feel like you need to get your people working on that. You've got to be a notable person.
I don't have any people.
What was it? What was it like growing up in King, North Carolina? Were you in the Forsyth side or the Stokes side of King, North Carolina?
Well, I grew up in Winston-Salem originally. I lived in right about Town and Country Estates in Winston-Salem, had a full court basketball in my backyard. And when I was 12, my dad moved us up to King, bought a farm. Gotcha. So when I was in my formidable years, prepubescent, from 7th grade till graduated from high school, I lived in King. So that's 6 years, 7 years, whatever. So what was the question again?
That wasn't the question. I just wanted to hear about life in King, North Carolina.
Oh yeah, no. The best thing about King is you remember all those come of age movies like Porky's and American Graffiti. Well, we had a senior league. The senior teams played baseball at the American Legion Field, which is right on the curve when you come off 52 and go up towards the stoplight.
Okay.
Well. They used to have a county fair there every year, the Stokes County Fair, infamous county fair, because it was in that ballpark and they had rides and stuff like that. But they had gambling tables that you can throw dice and bet. And they had strip joints. Well, not strip joints. They were nudie shows across the back, around the back of the outfield. There were tractor trailers. So
time out. Where's this fair? I want to write that
down. I'm not sure it's still there now in the politically correct world we lived in, but back, but I was a teenager before I got my driver's license and then after. So going to the fair one night of all that with your buddies and trying to sneak into the girly show, and it's just all that Porky stuff. It was all. So I got to experience that kind of the American Graffiti, Porky's lifestyle, and I'll never forget it. I love the people in King. I don't go back much. My parents are both dead, so they sold. We don't have any land or anything back there anymore. But I'm very close with a lot of people from King and love everybody there. But it was a great place to grow up, and a great place to motivate me to be who I am now, because I wanted to experience more.
All right. The trivia question, you're from King, North Carolina, but since we're talking Duke UNC, Billy King was a 6'6" small forward for Duke in the mid 80s. He averaged 4.5 points and 3 rebounds for his career, obviously higher than that in his junior and senior years. He didn't play in the NBA, but he did go on to become an executive in the NBA as general manager of the 76ers and the Nets. Brian Geiser can tell you how good of a GM he was and whether or not the teams got better after he left. But we won't worry about that. The question is, what number did Billy King wear in college? Your hint is
– No, I don't need a hint. A hint. It's the same as his free throw percentage, 55.
Good. Your hint was going to be it's the highest number a college player can wear since they're not allowed to wear. They can only wear 1 through 5, so it could be on a referee's hand. Always catering to the refs there. You are 1 for 1. Where do you want to go for your next trivia question?
Hold on. Here's a text I got yesterday from Billy King, just to let you know.
What did it say?
Well, I sent him. Have y'all seen that video that Duke put out yesterday on Instagram and Facebook, whatever, Twitter? It's the drone guy. They've got a great drone guy that they come in and the drone video where they were doing their last practice. It's ballet. It's art. It gives me goosebumps to think about how creative that group there is at Duke. Shout out to them. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Their social team really does stuff that just it's like without parallel.
Part of what's elevated their brand. What? Where do you want to go next? Duke UNC Geography, 1978 Final Four.
Let's go Duke UNC Geography. If I could make one statement first.
Sure. Everybody
talks about the rivalry. The how many times Duke's played under K 50 or 50 versus 49. Whatever. Gene Banks, Elwood, and I hold the record of most appearances, 14 in Duke Carolina rivalries. Think about that. 14 games in 4 years. That means we played 4 times twice, 3 times, twice. 14 times. Nobody's done. I mean, there's several 13s.
Right.
But think about that. 14 times to kick each other's ass. It's so much fun.
Yeah. All right. And where'd you say you're going?
Right here.
Okay.
Hey, Kenny. I'm Josh. Sorry I'm late. I'm glad that you talked about officiating and hating them. As a state fan, as a state fan, we hate all the refs. Just wanted to get that out there. My question:
even the women's basketball refs, they hate them too.
All refs and all sports are terrible. My question: UNC and Duke have played in 5 different cities in the state of North Carolina. Can you name the 5 cities?
Ooh.
They have played against each other.
Yeah, no, I got it. All right, Raleigh. I mean, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Charlotte, and
give it to them.
I guess Raleigh.
That is correct.
I was thinking that was right.
So, I went back and looked at some history. It's pretty interesting. So they did play in Raleigh. The first game they ever played in Raleigh was actually the old Raleigh Memorial Auditorium.
Yeah.
In 1921,
my goodness, that's really funny. That's great.
They also played a handful of times at Reynolds, either for Dixie Classics or Southern Conference tournaments. At that, whenever that iteration was going on. Did you a little sidebar? Some of the names of the old gyms at Duke and UNC are just incredible. UNC had a gym called the Tin Can. That games were played at. Duke
that then became their indoor track was there for a while because that's where you would go run indoor track at the Tin Can at UNC's campus.
Duke played games at obviously Cameron. They played at Alumni Memorial Gym, and then the first gym they ever played in against UNC and they played basketball in was the Anger Duke Gym, and I think it's now known as the Arc, which is still a building.
That's on East Campus, right?
Right, and that's where the first iteration of Duke, UNC, and Durham was played. So that was correct. But you had the 5 cities correct right there.
All right, you're 2 for 2. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go. What was the other?
You can go. Everybody's got options left. You got two 1978 Final Four questions, 1 King and 1 Duke UNC geography.
Let's do. Whoever wants to ask.
78 Final Four. We'll just go.
78 Final Four. Let's go there.
All right. So unfortunately, you guys fell in the 1978 title game to Kentucky. One of the backup guards for Kentucky, who played very briefly in that game, has gone on to be a 3-time NBA head coach. He was the 2018 NBA Coach of the Year. He's now the current head coach of the Detroit Pistons, and I believe he served as an assistant coach with your friend George Karl in Seattle once upon a time as well. Who is this man?
Backup guard, you said?
Backup guard. Yep. Current head coach of the Detroit Pistons now.
The Detroit Pistons. Well, I don't follow pro basketball. I can't watch a whole game without throwing up until the playoffs. You
can trust the news too.
Yeah, you
trust
trust the news.
Geez, I could Google this, but I really don't want to cheat.
No, that'd be bad.
That's what the Moose does. Trust the Moose because the Moose Googles it.
Trust the Moose. Trust the Moose. Come on, Moose. Give it to me.
The head coach of the Detroit Pistons, because I'm an NBA savant, is Dwayne Casey.
Dwayne Casey. He was on that team?
You agree?
Am I supposed to agree with him or not?
I don't know. You got to depend. I mean, he's called Trust the Moose. Are you going to trust him or not?
Would he lie to me?
I don't think he would.
No, I don't think
Okay, I trust him.
That is correct. It is Dwayne Casey. Yes.
He played on that team. He didn't play any in the championship game.
He didn't play in the game. Okay, he registered, according to the box score, he has 1 turnover but 0 minutes. So I didn't know how to.
Okay.
I looked it up. I tried to do the deep dive this morning, but
he was one of the guys. He was one of the guys that came in and then got pulled out.
Probably. And that turnover.
Exactly what happened.
No, but that happens. Those official records are and minutes. They were terrible at minutes back then.
Yeah,
they really didn't know. They didn't have high sophisticated. They had people marking shit. So the one for years, the Final Four book, I would always win money because I went back. I've been to like 25 Final Fours because I was with Coaches with Cancer. Coaches versus Cancer. We don't want cancer. It's bad. So in there, it had me for 6 fouls in the Notre Dame game. For that semifinal for like 20 years until finally I just said, maybe I should write a letter but no, this is a good trivia question now. Who's got 6 fouls? And then one day it just disappeared. I guess they heard I was making money off of it.
I was looking at the box score and you mentioned Goose Gibbons with 41 in that game. And I realized I looked up, that's the 3rd most ever in a title game. Gil Goodrich had 42. Bill Walton had 43 in a title game at 1 point.
Bill Walton had 44. So
44.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right, you're 3 for 3. Let's keep it going with King Trivia. All right. Not King North Carolina once again, but we're splitting the Duke UNC rivalry. It was Billy King last time. This time it's King Rice. Was a UNC point guard from 1987 to 1991. He averaged 6 points and 4.5 assists for his career. Also didn't play in the NBA, much like Billy King, but he has become a college coach. He was an assistant for many years in the 90s and then again for a stretch at Vanderbilt before getting his first head coaching gig. It's one that he's been in for over a decade now. Where does former UNC point guard King Rice coach?
You'd have to ask me about a Carolina guy, wouldn't you?
Trust the Moose.
When it's not in the Carolina, it's in the King. Okay. Yeah. Moose, give me another shot here. Let me know.
I actually do know this one. I didn't have to Google it. He's the coach at Monmouth.
Agree or disagree?
I agree.
That is correct. 3-time Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference Coach of the Year. That's the conference that gave us St. Peter's. Many people were saying that King Rice might be helping former teammate Hubert Davis with a St. Peter's scouting report that Kentucky and Purdue weren't privy to, and that's why UNC was able to get over the toughest team in the tournament, St. Peter's. All right, you're 4 for 4.
Those Peacocks were fun, weren't they? Wasn't that fun to watch them?
Story of the tournament, I think.
It was really, I didn't think Carolina, they'd have any chance against Carolina, but boy, their attitude, it was just it reminded me of Gulf Coast, Florida Gulf Coast. It reminded, back, what was that other one, that mid-major, George Mason.
Yeah.
Those make for the most colorful parts of the tournament.
Super cool.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, keep it rolling. Duke UNC geography. What you got, Goodson?
This weekend will mark the 4th city outside of the state of North Carolina that Duke and UNC have played each other in. New Orleans would be the 4th. What are the other 3 cities that Duke and UNC have played each other in?
Well, New York, I know, because George Karl rubs it into my face about they beat us in the NIT finals back in the early 70s. So New York is 1.
Be very specific.
What? New York City?
Okay. That's one city.
You mean like Manhattan? Do I need to say Manhattan?
No, New York City. New York City.
And then Brooklyn. Is Brooklyn a different city?
It is a different city than New York City. That is correct. Yeah.
Well, no. New York City has 5 boroughs.
Well,
okay.
I'm counting it as 2 different cities.
Okay, good thing you qualified. So
that's all right.
Okay, so now we have 2 New York cities. We have a Brooklyn and a Manhattan.
Correct.
Right? So I have to figure out one more.
Yes.
And it would have to be a preseason tournament somewhere, like Maui or Alaska. No, it's not that. Seattle. Don't think I'm getting this one, but let's think. Maryland. DC.
That is incorrect.
What? Landover?
They have not played in Washington, D.C. at any or
Well, Landover, bitch. Come on, give me that.
No. The other answer is Atlanta.
Atlanta. Yeah, you were on the right track. ACC tournament. You were on the right track.
Multiple ACC tournaments in the old Omni, the old Georgia Dome, and yes,
it was like Wordle when you had one letter missing and you knew it was either Atlanta or DC. It was like an ACC tournament, but I only got one guess left.
Well, I forgot about Atlanta, so
that's all right. You're 4 for 5.
Missed it.
4 for 5. One question left.
No, that actually had 4 questions in a question, so I'm 6.
The rules are strict.
7 for 8. I'm 7 for 8.
All right, BG. Last question.
Yeah, last question. In the 1978 Final Four that year, you guys beat a really good Notre Dame team. Close game, 90-86. Duke had 3 guys, or they had 4 guys scoring double figures that game, including, 3 in double figures, all 3 above 20 points. Who led you guys in scoring as you beat Notre Dame in the Final Four that day with 29 points?
Well, it's probably G-Man, because those 3 it's either G-Man, Spinarkle, or Banks, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it might be Spinarkle. It could be Gene. Let me tell you a story about that first. Okay. My first day of practice, freshman year, we come out and we're doing our drills, and we have the whole top of Cameron Indoor full. Coach Foster, Gene Banks brought a lot of buzz back in 77. That was that October 15th, 1977. So we opened up the first practice because there was so much buzz about Gene. And so we're doing all of our drills, and then we finally go to scrimmage. And when we're scrimmaging, I'm on the white team. I'm starting. I had no idea I'd be a starter first scrimmage, freshman year at Duke. So Gene, me, Steve Gray, Mike Jaminski, and Jim Spinarkle. So the first time we come down, boom, 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 pass, cut. I'm opening the corner. I shoot. I hit it. People going, who the fuck is that guy? So the next time I go down, I get a steal or something, or a rebound, I throw it out, and I'm breaking it, stop, take a 10-footer, it scores 2 in a row, run back, whatever, and then they score, and come back down and do a bunch of stuff. There's a foul. This I remember like it was yesterday. And then something comes off a screen, and I just take a guy and come off a screen and score. Coach Foster goes, brr, brr, brr. Stop, practice. Come here. So he puts his arm around me. I'm all geeked up. The place is going, who is this white boy? And he puts his arm around me, goes, who's that right there? I said, that's Jim Spinarkle. Who's that? That's Mike Jaminski. Who's that guy over there? That's Gene Banks. They're going to give me 20 a game. You're going to have to figure out another way to make this team. So I dove for loose balls, took charges, got every rebound I could. And that's how, I do. I listen to my coach. That's why I got a lot of minutes. Mm-hmm. But I would say Jim Spinarkle.
It was your first guess was actually correct. It was the G-Man. He had 29 points in that game, 13 of 17 shooting. Jim Spinarkle was awesome. He had 20 points, though, 12 of 12 from the free throw line, and Gene Banks had 22. But it was the G-Man with 29 that led.
How many did I have?
You had again. Now, assuming these box scores are accurate, we were just discussing.
You had 7 fouls.
Yeah, you had 5 fouls, 7 points, 2 steals, and 7 boards. Pretty solid.
Yeah, that's my journeyman outfit. Yeah. That's what I normally do. That's how I made the team. I did it.
There you go. 7 and 7, 7 points, 7 boards, and 5 fouls. There you go.
You know, I'm the only guy who's ever had a double-double, and one of the categories is steals.
Well done.
Yeah. I still have the ACC single game record for steals. 11.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So Gene had a double-double that game, and I had a double-double again. It was against Maryland in 79, I think, February.
Also impressive is going 4 for 6 in round 1. We now moved to round 2. Those 4 that you got right now become clues that you get for our mystery person. This mystery person has some association with the state of North Carolina. We're not giving you any more specific category than that. It's probably sports related, though. We'll give you that. And I don't know. Sometimes you can get more hints out of us, but you can ask anybody, me, Goodson, Brian Geisinger, or the Weather Moose for a clue. After each clue you get, you can take a guess. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. You just get, after your 4th clue, you got to get that guess right, or you don't get it. So think broadly. This may be a tricky one. I will say, obviously, it's going to be Final Four themed. So let's see. Who do you want to give you a clue first?
You.
All right. I'll go. I'm notorious for giving it away, so I'm trying not to.
That's what I figured. I saw that tell early.
I'm going our good friend Patrick Johnson enjoying the show. I'm going with Slick. Slick.
What's Slick? What does that mean?
That's a word to describe our mystery person, and you're trying to guess who it is.
Slick. You mean this is actually Slick? Well, we had a assistant coach we called Slick. So it's a real person, Slick. John Calipari.
Yeah, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. You are thinking correctly, but that is not that correct in this case. Who do you want to give you clue number 2?
Yes.
Josh.
Josh,
good.
Sorry. UNC geography guy.
Well, we got to get you on the track. We got to get you on the right track. Referee.
Oh, I thought you meant the running track, and I'm going, hell, you won't.
No,
you won't.
My word is referee.
Referee. Well, there was one I hated the worst, and it's Lenny Wirtz.
Oh, he was one back in the day.
It is
that's the one I hated the worst.
That's incorrect. I remember all
y'all
the clues.
Are too young. Y'all are too young to.
I remember Lenny Wirtz.
Lenny Wirtz, he was the absolute worst, and he was kind of like you talk about a peacock that had some skin issues. This guy was awful. Anyway, God rest his soul.
Lenny Wirtz and Dick Paparo back in the day.
Dick Paparo was after me. See, that's how old I am.
All right. I do remember Lenny Wirtz, though. I remember all these clues.
Joe Forte was one of my favorites. So
yeah. All these clues are describing the same one person. So you got Slick and referee.
I'm sorry. I missed that. Sorry. Yeah. I thought we were just
they're all building
totally toast my Earl Grey morning.
No, they're all building to one mystery guess.
Slick.
You got 2 more clues. Who do you want
referee.
to give? Who do you want?
Hold on. Now that I know what it is, the way the game's playing, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just take the next clue.
It took me 9 years to get out of Duke. Okay, so just give me a chance.
Who do you want to give the clue?
The Moose. Give me a Moose clue. Can the Moose give me a clue?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you've got Slick. You've got referee. I'm going to give you. This might be a Permar softball, if you know. I'm going to go with firefighter.
Hold on. I'm not high enough for that. What is that? I don't know. Keep going.
You still got one more.
I got one more.
You sounded like you had a guess even before you heard the firefighter one.
No, let's see.
All right.
Well, Slick, referee, firefighter. I feel like I'm in one of those pictogram things where I'm putting the plus. It's like remember that game show where they had plus and
Yeah. I think it was
I'm gonna have to wait.
Right.
Is it? I get one more clue, and then if I don't get it, it's only one loss, right?
That's right. Why don't we let Brian give you the final clue?
All right, final clue. ACC.
So it's an ACC slick ref who's a firefighter on the side. I don't know.
Yep.
How would I know that?
Use slick in a very
you guessed John. Maybe you weren't thinking of what you were thinking of when you guessed John Calipari. I was thinking you were on the right track.
Use slick as very talking about someone's physical attributes.
Well, I'm sorry to say, it's not Hank Nichols. Maybe, I don't know. Is it This is very different. Do all your guests come in here and feel like
usually the UNC guests get it right. So the rivalry's now over after this.
All right. Was Hank Nichols your final guess?
Yes.
Do you know who's working the Final Four?
No.
Roger Ayers.
I don't know him.
You don't know him? He's the slick-haired ref. I'm pretty sure he did the Duke UNC game in Cameron. He does.
Yeah, they're not. That's where, like when I played, I tried to be not. Just put it this way: I'm so old. We didn't have handshake lines, and now we know why, because of what's been going on lately. And also, we didn't talk to the refs. We didn't get to know them. We didn't give them fist pumps and shit. They were. If you talk to them, you better, the captain was the only guy who could talk with them. So I don't know who Roger Ayers is. I know who Lenny Wirtz is and Hank Nichols and John Daugherty or Laffert. We had a number of good refs, and we had some shitty refs. Oh, okay. I recognize him now. I didn't know it. Yeah, he's pretty much a Terminator when it comes to refs. He likes to be on TV, but he's nothing like Teddy. So he's not the going. Yeah. But I don't know if he's good or not. He's just, he's always made Coach K a little bit upset. So
we don't have the assignments, but we know he is one of the refs there. And there's if you were betting on who's going to be working the Duke UNC game, he's not a bad bet. So, but that's poor.
Is there a line in Vegas on who's the ref? Is that at the Westgate?
I don't know. Can you bet on that, Josh Goodson?
No, I don't think so. We would have major issues if you.
They probably want to keep betting away from referees as much as they can. But
yeah, really, that's good.
All right, poor game running to pick somebody that you didn't even know who they were. That wasn't fair. It did give you a chance, but at least we got to talk Roger Ayers. Maybe some folks listening will get that with Slicker.
Is this live? Is this live?
Oh yeah, we're streaming live, baby.
Good, excellent.
We're streaming, and we'll drop it as a podcast.
Good. Yeah, I'd love to share it with my son because he'll get a chuckle out of a lot of this.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for joining. You win the game show because you have been entertaining and for giving us your time. Some great Duke UNC stories and just talking about being a player, being a fan, and the program in general. So we really appreciate the time. And we hope you have a great time in the Final Four, man. Thank you.
Check out my social media to see my Lewis Black video with me and Lewis.
I saw that. Very cool. And where can we get where can the Duke fans who listen get their Go to Hell Carolina gear?
GTHCGTH.com.
There we go.
It's been my little, that commercial that they have with the Shopify. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I've been doing that the last few days. And I don't market at all. I've never done an ad or anything. I'll send out some emails and post some stuff on social media.
No, you didn't ask to promote anything. I just knew that you did it. And so we're happy.
Yeah, it's fun. It was fun to do that back in this. The story on that's pretty funny. Anyway, Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Let's go, Duke.
For the Weather Moose, for Josh Goodson, for Brian Geisiger, Sports Channel 8. We out. Almost out. We are out.
Sports, when you've got a great ball club. Sports, when you're leaving it all on the field. Sports, when you like your team's chances. Sports, to survive.